Let's talk for a minute about options in commercial lease agreements. The first and most important thing to understand about tenant options is that they are unilateral in nature, which means that they benefit the tenant only, not the landlord. This is a very common misconception. Landlords believe that by giving their tenants options, they are encouraging the tenant to stay in their building and they'll stay longer term, minimizing their costs of re-tenanting the building. However, that is truly not the case. You are giving the tenant sole control over the ability to stay in your building beyond their initial lease term. And that has to do with whatever options and option language that you give them. Keep in mind there are different kinds of options, whether it's a lease extension option, a purchase option, a right of first refusal, or a right of first opportunity. If you're interested in learning more about each of those, I'd be happy to explain them to you. But the most important thing, and again, this is mostly tailored towards landlords, is that you are giving your tenant an option that is not of benefit to you. And the biggest mistake I see of landlords giving options, and it has to do with giving them at a fixed price, a fixed increase rate, or some other kind of fixed metric that really is unpredictable. If you're giving a 5-year lease and you're then giving a 5-year option at a fixed price 5 years down the road, who knows where the market is going to be in 5 years? Your rent in a 5-year span may have doubled. It may have gone up by 25%, pick a number, right? If you've offered your tenant a fixed option at a 3% increase 5 years down the road, you've now sacrificed significant value on the rent you're collecting 5 years from now. And on top of that, if you were then wanting to go sell and your tenant is able to renew their option at a 3% increase 5 years later, your new rent is now significantly below market, which brings the value of your building down and impacts your ability to sell. Also, similarly, along the same lines, is that if you wanted to sell your building, say, to a user, another company that wanted to occupy the building, you have a tenant currently in place. Well, if they have a 5-year option to extend at some point when you're trying to sell, you probably can't sell that building to that user because they don't know if they're going to be able to occupy that building. So whenever possible, I try to advise landlords to avoid giving tenants at all costs. On the other side, I totally understand why tenants want options if they're going to make significant capital investment into the building. They are building a long-term employee track there, or maybe a presence in the community. They need the ability to extend long-term. So I see both sides of it, and so I'm not saying that options should never be given, but they should be given very, very thoughtfully, and they should be as mutually beneficial as possible, despite them being unilateral in nature. So keep that in mind if you're working on a lease. If you ever need some advice on option language, I'm always happy to weigh in. And thank you for watching.